Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
This episode is brought to you by LatinXcellence. Visit LatinXcellence.com. That's LatinX, CELLENCE.com or LatinXmovement.com to learn more and shop our merchandise. You are excellence. Hello and welcome to episode 100 of the On My Way to Wealth podcast. I appreciate you tuning in. It's been about 2 years in this journey and I can't believe it. It was just like yesterday. Now I'm on episode 100. So this is a pretty big milestone for me. So thank you all for your support. Today, I want to talk to you about hiring a nanny and what that looks like from a tax standpoint. I have a lot of clients of mine that are reaching that milestone themselves. Finally, they have the young one at home and they need somebody to take care of them. And I get the questions, right? How do we do this? How do we do this legitimately so that we don't get in trouble with the IRS or the state? We don't, want to necessarily pay them under the table. We just want to make sure everything's done on the up and up so that we have peace of mind and we can take advantage of different tax credits and whatnot, right? So I want to go through some of the things that you should be on the lookout for if you're thinking of hiring a nanny. And also, it may sound overwhelming when I'm breaking down the different steps, but I want to let you know ahead of time that you don't have to figure all this stuff out yourself. There are actually payroll companies out there that specialize in helping individuals set up this type of system where you can have a very professional appearance and your own tax ID number and just manage everything via even an app or just from your tablet or computer. So this whole process could be very overwhelming if you try to do it yourself. Can you do it yourself? Yes. I highly recommend that you just hire one of these companies because the fee is really nominal compared to the amount of time and headache you're going to save. So I just wanted to put that out there because when you're hearing me go through these steps, you might be like, whoa, this sounds super overwhelming. So it does not need to be. And I'll make a reminder about that at the very end as well. So let's get right into it. So when do you need to set yourself up as an employer? Well, it begins with the question, well, who is a household employee? So a household employee is anyone that you pay to provide domestic services in your household. So that can be anybody from a babysitter, nanny, an au pair, any caretaker, health aides, private nurses, housekeeper, maid, gardeners, landscapers, yard keepers, a driver, a chauffeur, personal assistants, personal chefs, cooks, all that stuff. So today we're going to talk specifically about hiring somebody to come to your house and take care of your child, right? So a nanny, babysitter. So that's a household employee. So now that you have a household employee, you need to set yourself up as an employer so that you can properly pay them, So this worker, is technically considered an employee because you can control not only the work that is done, but also how it's done and the hours as well, So they're not necessarily an independent contractor because you have a lot of control. So when you look at the definitions, usually with the IRS in some states, it'll be something around those lines where if you can control the work that is done, how it's done, the hours and so on, then they're technically considered your employee, right? So that's something to be on the lookout for. So it doesn't matter if it's full-time, part-time, or if you hire the person through an agency or a list provided by an agency or association, they're your employee. And it doesn't matter whether it's hourly, daily, weekly basis, so on and so forth. I will put a copy of IRS Publication 926 in the show notes, the Household Employers Tax Guide. If one day you're just having trouble falling asleep, feel free to read that. And I'm sure to knock you right out, but I'll put that in the show notes for reference. So now we determine who is a household employee. So now if you're hiring a nanny, you definitely have a household employee. Now you need to set yourself up as an employer. So you hired a household employee to work for you on a regular basis. Then one of the things you need to do, first thing is get yourself an employer ID number. It's called an EIN. This is one of the key responsibilities for many new businesses, and they're used for other things. But in this case, it's going to be used for you to provide on the W-2 that you're going to provide your employee. And also when you file the tax forms, which I'll get into in a second. One of the reasons you want to do this as well is because you don't want to be handing out your Social Security number to every time you hire somebody, right? You might have several nannies throughout the years, who knows? And you don't want to be handing out your Social Security number, which will show on the W-2 that you provide to them. So you want to get an employer ID number right away. This is something that could be done very easily and free on the IRS website, right? And again, some of those payroll companies that specialize in helping you set up payroll for nannies also help you work through this process as well. So employer ID number, number one. Number two, you want that employee to fill out an I-9 form. This is very common in the United States. It's an eligibility verification to work in the US. Now, you don't need to submit that form anywhere. You just basically have it in your files in case it's ever required by an authorized government official or something like that. But for the most part, it's something you want to do just to have it on your records. Now, you also want to give the employee a W-4 form to fill out, because this is how they're going to select how much they want to have withheld in taxes, in terms of like their filing status, married, single, so on. They have dependents. You're probably familiar with that form because you probably had to fill one of those out yourself when you were employed as well. So you provide that to your employee. One tax form that has to be filled out every year. Most of us fill out a form 1040 at the end of the year. So if you are a household employer, then you would file a Schedule H, and that would have everything that you report in terms of wages and stuff so that you can pay your household employment taxes. You might have to withhold Social Security and Medicare and all that stuff, depending on how much you pay your employee. And you'll report all this in the Schedule H. This can be filed with your 1040 at the end of the year. A lot of the payroll companies that specialize in you handling like employees like nannies and other household employees, they would actually fill this Schedule H for you. So again, taking that headache away from you. At the end of the year, then you have to report the wages paid to your employee. So you will give them a W-2, just like you get from your job, and then you will fill out the W-3 and send a copy to the Social Security Administration, which is basically what your employer does with your W-2. And again, this sounds crazy, a lot of stuff, but this could all be easily put together under one umbrella and have like a third-party provider just handle this for you. But it's very important. I just wanted to go through the different steps so that you're aware of all the things that you need to be on the lookout for to make sure that you're doing this properly and you don't get in trouble later. Now, let's talk about payroll, right? So how do you set this up? You have the employee fill out a W-4, then you figure out with them, you agree what the payroll schedule is going to be. Is it going to be weekly? Are you going to pay them bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly? That way you can dictate when your employee is going to get paid and you agree with them on that. If you set it up through a payroll company, then this could also be handled for you because you just log into your account and say, okay, I'm going to pay this person this much every so often and set it up automatically. Or if it's hourly, you can log in every pay period and run payroll on your own. But it's pretty easy once it's all set up. You want to keep accurate timekeeping, right? So especially if they're hourly, you want to know how many hours they work, what days, did they work holidays? Are you going to pay them time and a half, and so on and so forth, which is another thing that you can keep track of while using one of these services. And then we spoke about the Schedule H, something that you're going to fill out at the end of the year as well to make sure that you're doing everything on the up and up with the taxes. Now, one thing to look out for as well is on the state side, a lot of states are very likely going to require you to carry some sort of workers' compensation insurance for the household employee, so it's something that it's a legal requirement in a lot of states. So you definitely want to check with that. And again, if you're using a third-party provider, very likely they're going to be familiar with your state's requirements and they'll be able to point you in the right direction or maybe even handle that for you as well. So it's just one less thing to worry about. Now, do you need to pay employment taxes? And as with most tax questions, the answer is it depends. So I'm going to give you a general overview. If you have a household employee, you may need to withhold and pay Social Security, Medicare, unemployment taxes, or all of those. Because remember, you are the employer, right? You don't need to withhold federal income taxes from your household employees' wages. But if they ask, then you will withhold it, right? And you can do that again, setting yourself up through one of these payroll companies. So right now, the IRS, if you go to the website, at least for 2021, if you pay cash wages of $2,300 or more in 2021 to any household employee, then you have to withhold employee taxes from the employee's wages, right? They say not to count your spouse or any child under the age of 21 or a parent or any employee under the age of 18. That doesn't count. But other than that, then yes, you have to withhold Social Security and Medicare, which right now are 15.3% combined. Your employee's share of that is 7.65. So, but you withhold both because you're doing the function, right, of the withholding for the taxes for both halves, the employer and the employee. So your share is 7.65, their share is 7.65. The total is 15.3. If you pay total cash wages of $1,000 or more in any calendar quarter, this was for 2020 and 2021 to a household employee, then you have to withhold as well, at least federal unemployment tax. The tax is 6% of cash wages. And again, I highly recommend you just hire a company to handle this for you. And it's really not that expensive because you will save a lot of time and a lot of headache. Now, why would you do this? Why not just pay your nanny under the table, right? It sounds like it would be a lot easier, right? To just be like, hey, they come here, I pay them cash, and it is what it is, right? Now, here's the thing. This is actually very beneficial for both of you, the employer and the employee in this case, for many reasons. So let's start with the employer. One, for you, this is peace of mind. Think about it this way. If you're paying somebody under the table and then, relationship goes sour or whatever, you fire them. And then they try to collect unemployment. When they file with the state, you're not going to show up in the system as being an employer, right? And having paid into the system. So, that may trigger some audit from the state or something like that. Someone, because they'll be like, hey, this person reported that they used to work for you and now they're claiming unemployment and we don't have you in the system. So you don't want that kind of attention, right? Coming your way. So you want peace of mind. You want to do things on the up and up. Number two, the tax benefits. There are some breaks that you can use. I'm sure some of you have seen the dependent care account. They're kind of like a flexible spending account that you can use. You can use some of those to pay for childcare related expenses on a pre-tax basis, which gives you quite a benefit because you're able to use pre-tax dollars to pay for up to $5,000 of childcare related expenses. So this is a really great advantage there. Also, if you make under the income limits to qualify for child or dependent care credit, it will have to be done legitimately, right? So you can't pay a nanny under the table and then claim a child or dependent care tax credit on your taxes, right? So if you qualify with the income, then it makes sense to pay them on the up and up, so that way you can then file your child or dependent care tax credit. And this was a big one. And also, there are benefits for the person that's being paid, both short-term and long-term. They come in the form of protections. One of them is it provides them with the fact that they'll be reporting Social Security income. They'll be reporting Medicare. They're also eligible to claim unemployment benefits, so that protects them as well. And it helps them in case they ever need to go get a loan or something. At least they have wages, so they can show a W-2 and pay stubs that they are in fact working, because when they work on the table, then they can't go apply for, a mortgage or something and be able to qualify because they have no wages, right? So this provides them with some protections as well. So it's a win-win for both parties, So I wanted to highly encourage you to go that route because then you have peace of mind. You're protected. This also makes it a very professional relationship as well. So, it kind of from the very beginning, you're establishing a very legitimate professional relationship with your nanny. And also, sometimes people come and go, right? So if you need to switch them out for some reason, it's very easily doable to just add somebody else to your payroll system, right? And then it's all on the up and up and you're legitimate. You have your peace of mind. You take advantage of any tax credits that you're eligible for. They're protected on their end, and it's a win-win situation. And again, just remember that there are definitely companies out there that can handle the payroll, tax forms, all that stuff, and help you get set up very easily for not really a lot of money. So it's worth the peace of mind at the time that you get back. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So I appreciate you all tuning in. If you have any questions, as usual, send me an email, luis@onmywaytowealth.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.